thank you for coming out. It means a lot. Today I organised this event because I wanted to pay my respects to the media. I know you got a difficult job. We've had a roller coaster of emotions of highs and lows for the last 15 years together. As an international player, I want to thank my parents, my mum and dad, for the unconditional support. Chris and Jake, my team that are here now, that help me off the park, which allows me to produce what I do on the park. My teammates are so important because they've helped make me who I am today. My friends, the FFA, DG and Arnie for coming today. Look, you guys didn't have to be here. I appreciate the support. And everyone in football, the growth of our game, the A-League, and Bozza, the words that you said there, I didn't want to get emotional, but it touched my heart in a big way. You've played at the highest level. You understand what we go through as players, mentally and physically, to be at the top. And just basically everyone that supported me. So this is basically an open media session for you guys to, ask me whatever you want, and hopefully I can give you the time you deserve. In the past, I'm someone that's very private, a family man. I never like to show my cards on moves that I make domestically, decisions that I make, because I feel every decision I've made domestically and internationally, personally domestically has been for the Socceroos, to play as long as possible and do what I've done, and all the records. It's just a reward for all the hard work. So if I've missed anyone out, I apologise, but I thank everyone for the opportunity I've had to wear the Australian jersey.
Okay, so we've got Ben over there on the left and Adam Markey on the right, who have both got microphones, who are going to come to you guys when you put your hand up to ask any question that you want to Tim. So please don't be afraid, raise your hand and start asking some questions. Just say who you are beforehand, please.
G'day, Tim. Daniel Sutton from Channel 10. Congratulations on an unbelievable career. Could you tell us a little bit about what led to the decision that you made, and whether there was anything that pushed you over the line?
I think, straight after the World Cup, leading into the World Cup, the 6 months prior, everything that I did, or every decision that I've made, was for my country. To train, the camp in Turkey, 40 days with the national team, was to, help the players, help the team, help the country, make sure that I was physically ready and mentally. And then after the World Cup, I wanted the time to have a free mind, go on holidays, give my family the time that they deserve, and really reflect properly. Now, I had a little inkling on holiday, but I still wanted to take time. And the support from my family and everyone around, I felt, 4 World Cups, Asian Cups, Olympic Games, 107 games, goals, amazing moments throughout my career. And I thought, there's an Asia Cup coming up. Do you want to play in it? Of course, I'd love to. Do my family need the headache and worry, like even leading into this World Cup? They'd love to be here, but a lot of pressures comes with being a footballer. And for me, that's what I get paid to do, is, show up for the big moments, take the highs and lows. But my family emotionally, they read things going into a World Cup. They get really concerned when I'm in Russia and when in different tournaments. So I think for me, it's the right time. I can pass the baton on to the guys going to the Asian Cup. Arnie can prepare. I can be there for the boys, the messages that I received. And I was pretty much prepping in camp, making sure mentally and physically the younger boys are ready, spending an awesome amount of time with the staff. They're going to hang about. I spoke to Arnie, and we're going to meet up again after. And I'm not going anywhere, really, because I'll always be their mentors. And I've always made sure, even in this last World Cup, whether I play or don't play, that I make a massive impact on them individually, with decisions that they make, what they eat, the way they prepare, and what it means to play for your country. So it wasn't an easy decision, and I don't want it to be a sad moment. I want it to be a celebration where, I can say, like, good luck, boys, go and win an Asian Cup, because I know you can. and I know that you're ready. You've produced on a world stage. I got to sit there and watch the camp, the 40 days, and it was an absolute pleasure to be able to retire at 38 years old and still being able to walk. You know, physically I feel fantastic, and it's a big decision to retire when you know you can still kick a ball, but it's the right time. And being an athlete, you don't know when the time is, but mentally and physically, it was the perfect decision.
Hi, Tim. Luke Duffy from 9 News. This the standard retirement questions. Have you got a favourite goal and a favourite achievement in a Socceroos shirt?
Favourite goal would have to be the first ever goal as a Socceroo in a World Cup. You know, you're really proud when you first put on that jersey. And there was a video that I put up today when I was running out that just flows back so many memories. You know, every single day now that I've stopped, it hasn't sunk in at all that I'm not going to be a national team player. The next game's going to come around and I'm not going to be there, and then I'm going to have to, you know, realise that it's set into reality. But the goals are just a reward. You know, I play every game like it's my last, and that's the message I say to every player that comes into national team camp, and I treat every camp like it's going to be my last, because I don't know when it's going to come. And you know, the goal in Brazil, you know, this is the kick against China. There's so many, and they all mean so much, whether it's a tap in or a beautiful strike. But there's been a lot of monumental moments throughout my career that I'm very proud of.
Hey Tim, Matt Carmichael from Seven. Congratulations and thanks for everything you've done for us, mate. During the World Cup, you had the nation basically all as one crying out for you to go on the field. So what did that mean to you? And was it a frustrating or a hard sort of way for you to finish up?
I think, you know, for me, when you're 38 years old and you've already been in 3 World Cups and you played in these big tournaments and played with top professionals, one thing I've learned is, especially when you play for your country, that I'm there for my country. So I'm in camp. All I care about is making sure that it's about the team. It's about my teammates. Mile's ready to lead the boys out. Players are prepared. Azani's going to bed at 9 o'clock. Everyone's eating right, and I knew I'd get my time. And that's what I was preparing for in them 44 days. You know, for the last 4 years with Craig Duncan and Les Gellis, we've had a close program that they monitor everything that I do, from the way I train to what I eat to my weight to my fat percentage. And in Turkey, I did everything that I could possible, covered 77,000 metres in 2 weeks, didn't miss a session. And I never missed a session in Russia because I knew that I would get a moment. And I got my moment against Peru. And I can't thank everyone in Australia for the support. Frustration is a word that is used because obviously a lot of people would have liked to see me play more. But for me, it was an honour to be a part of a 4th World Cup campaign. And the little things for me is I'm representing my country. You know, so a player has to think a lot bigger than himself personally, regardless of his own situation. And I feel that that's why I'm fine retiring. I've done all that I could. There was nothing that I didn't do on and off the park. And, afterwards, when I seen the support from the papers and during it, I was really surprised because, going into it, it was a bit mixed. And then when you prove through actions, which is what I've always done, and in the end, I always get the support that we all deserve, and that's Aussies getting behind their team, and it was a great experience.
Tim, Matt Bungard, Sydney Morning Herald. First of all, congratulations on a great career for the Socceroos. My question is, do you have any plans, or have you thought about remaining with the national team in some sort of official capacity in the future? I know the retirement's quite fresh, but is that something you've thought about?
Yeah.
Assistant coach, Arnie.
Yeah. I think I've had a few conversations with Arnie and also with DG and Mr. Lowy and the FFA. They've been so supportive. I think it was a little bit of a bombshell for them, but like I said before, I'm always someone that keeps my cards close to my chest. Not because I want to be evasive and all that. It's because I feel when you make these decisions as a professional sportsman, it has to be your own, and it has to be organic. And that's one thing that I wanted to be my decision. And looking for the future, I'm interested in coaching. You know, I'm going to fly from Australia. I'm going to spend some time here in Australia and meet with some partners and try and lay some foundations to, you know, do great things for soccer in Australia, sit with the FFA, support the A-League, support Arnie, make sure that I can still be an ambassador for the A-League and support the growth of football in Australia, which is something that I'm excited to do. And I'll fly to the UK and start my UEFA B licence just in preparation. And then I'll open the door for offers to play football. So I've not really entertained anyone when it comes to football because I've been selfish enough finally to have some serious family time, and I promised that I wouldn't try not to talk about too much football, talk about football clubs. So international retirement's done, but as for domestic, you know, there could be an opportunity, but it's still something I've got time to decide.
Tim, Amanda Shalala, ABC News. In terms of continuing that club career, what sort of level ideally would you like to be playing at?
I think for me, you know, I've heard a lot of whispers about the A-League. You know, I want to be open and honest that my A-League experience was fantastic to come home, to win a trophy with Melbourne City in the FFA Cup, to score some awesome goals. You know, my debut is something I'll never forget. I felt like I had a successful time here. To live in America and try and play in the A-League will be impossible. So respectfully, I'd like to thank everyone that's, you know, been talking about me coming home. So to draw a line in the sand there, that would just stop any whispers. I'm not connected to any, you know, A-League groups or anything whatsoever, but what I am connected to is I'm connected to the FFA and to the Socceroos, where my support will be there with whatever they need, help them commercially, help them any way possible, and still striving to grow my grassroots program in Australia as well. So I think for me that it feels great to be neutral and to be able to give that support as an ambassador for football in Australia and sport in general.
Tim, Ben Horn from the Daily Telegraph. Just with your experience in Russia, in the early matches before you did get time, did you have conversations with the manager about his thought process there, with those key matches that got a lot of attention with you not being out there?
For me, my conversations with the staff were there wasn't many. I don't think many of the players did. It was just being part of a professional setup and making sure that if they needed me, and proving fitness and proving that you're ready, that I was there. So the setup was fantastic. It's probably one of the best environments that I've ever been a part of this World Cup campaign, from the preparation in Turkey to where we stayed in Kazan. And from that, you know, when you are part of a sporting tournament, it's then down to whatever decisions that group of staff make. And for us, 23 players at the time, we have been taught in the last 4 years, especially under Ange as well, that we always knew that a lot of us will be used for that tournament, and we just had to be ready because it's what we bought into. And it was something that this World Cup was so important. I know everyone kept talking about 4 World Cups, but I bought into this at a stage in my career when Ange was twisting my arm to hang around for the next Asian Cup, which was the one that we won, and the last World Cup. So, you know, I seen it out, and I feel that I feel fantastic for seeing it out. And you know, it was one of those that whatever staff comes in, yes, you can have relationships where they talk to you and you've got input and all that sort of stuff. I feel as players, it's just worry about doing it on the pitch, and that's something that I've always lived and died by. And we've had those sorts of relationships throughout for my career domestically as well.
Tim, Ned Hall from Grandstand, you mentioned about the mentoring work that you clearly enjoy doing naturally with the rest of your teammates. You mentioned Daniel Alzani. Are you still in touch with him and advising him on the next step for his career?
He told me to delete my post. Yeah, of course. And, not only Daniel, I'm in touch with a lot of them. There's so much amazing talent, especially young talent in the A-League, and I think this is the most exciting thing that you're going to see with a new setup. We're lucky that Arnie's been a part of the A-League and he's evolved as a manager. And he actually, we talked about Azani ages ago and his talent and other players. And mentoring is important because as you get older, you don't realise till, throughout my career, I've had people like Bozza, John Aloisi, Swartzer that I've played with, Harry Kuehl, Viduka, players that you look up to, Lucas Neal, they offer support as a player and I never forget it. And so throughout my career, even when I first started, I know how difficult it is to come into a camp and how uncomfortable and the pressures that are on you. And there were the moments throughout the World Cup that I wanted Azani to be pressure-free. And he plays his best football when he's relaxed. And I think because of my experience, I know how to get the best out of these youngsters and also players that you think that are older that have to deal with the pressure of being there for the captain and being there for Millsy that can change the dynamics of a setup and also the games because, I look at Denmark as, a game that I thought that we could have won. I look at Peru as another winnable game, and my job is, regardless if I'm not playing the night before or playing cards, is I'm saying I know we can win this game. I'm telling them, and then you can see a little bit of a spring in their step, and that's the mentoring side for me that I really enjoy, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and they text me, and I think it'll hit home the next camp, not being there for myself and also the other players.
Tim, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the other big story in Australian football this week, Usain Bolt potentially trialling for the Mariners. Do you think that this is a good thing for the game in Australia or could it just be a big circus?
Do you want to answer that? You're right.
No, I'm fine. I'm fine answering it because I think really he's a fantastic world-class athlete. Now, he has to prove his fitness and he has to prove he can play football. If he can, then it could be a success. But I think only you guys will be able to decide after watching and the fans. And really in football, all that matters is what the fans want. And for me, I can't really comment on whether he can do it because I've never seen him play. But the one thing we have to be careful of as an organisation and as a media and someone now that's not playing for the national team is making sure that we protect our game. And when we talk about players, whether it's Iniesta or whether it's Torres, that we be realistic as well. This is a growing league. These players are on tax-free money. So when you start throwing numbers out and things like that, there's a lot of pressure that gets put on clubs and the FA. And I feel there has to be a nice medium now that clubs, everyone start working in harmony together to grow the game. Because what you write's really important too, because you educate the public, and then it has a massive knock-on effect. And that's something for me that I've been able to deal with because I can block it out. But it's what parents read, then it's what kids read, then it has an effect on the game. So I think if there's a way that it can work, then there's got to be a method to the madness. And then there also has to be some common sense with the way that it's projected.
Hey, Tim Cahill from Fox Sports. Congrats on an amazing career.
Thank you.
During the World Cup, goal scoring was a bit of a problem for the Socceroos again. Who's going to be the next Tim Cahill? Can you see someone in the current setup who has the potential?
I think for me, there's always potential. My job in camp was to sit with Tommy Juric. I feel that he's a fantastic striker. He's got all the traits to do well. I sat with McLaren. I told him, bide your time. You don't know, you could get 5 minutes. I sat with Naboo, Dimi Petrados. I made sure that I sat with them all individually, and I always said to them, especially with Azani too and players, I said, when you get your chance, just hit the target. You don't know what's going to happen. And what comes with international football is club football. The higher you play club level, whether it's the A-League, whether it's any other league, it doesn't matter what league you play in. What matters is repetition and consistency. So if you're going to bang in goals, do it 5 seasons in a row in the A-League and do it consistently. Because when you do it on the training pitch and do it with your team, I guarantee you, you will do it for your national team. And from that is making sure that you're always fit, making sure that if you need a massage, making sure that you're eating the right things, making sure that you're giving everything that you can to be a professional. See, because what we forget is we have amazing careers, and I've had an amazing career, and I've been rewarded really well with my contracts. I've played all around the world, England, MLS, China, Australia, and I've been rewarded well. But I always make sure that I invest in my body, whether it's my own physios, whether it's conditioning, nutritionists, and putting back in. And what I try and make the lads understand is without consistency, whatever club you're at, and sacrifice and really buying into that, you can't score goals. So will there be another Tim Cahill? Will there be another goal scorer? For sure there will be, but that's up to them. And that's up to an individual. If you want to be better at something, then there's certain things in life that take precedence. And, you know, for me, for a little part of that, you know, my family's had to watch on the side, or, you know, certain elements, you know, that I left home when I was 16. Same things that I speak to Azani when he left home when he was 14. I chose that life, and I've lived and died by the sword, and now I'll never take anything back, and I'm just such a motivated person that when it comes closer and closer and closer towards the end, when you know that your time could be up at 38 years old internationally, I was investing so much more, and I was just so thankful for that. But we got some good players. And, you know, I'm sure Arnie's got a plan, and he knows about his players, he knows about other players, and whatever help they need, especially with talking to the players and being there for them, I give them reality. So where someone will tell them that, yeah, you're a great player, I will say to Tommy that he needs to do more shooting practice. I will tell Azani what he's eating isn't right. I will tell Macca that he needs to play more games, because that's just the type of person I am.
Steve Wilson, ABC. Your career has been a period where Australia have got to the point where they consistently qualify for World Cups. What, in your mind, from being at the centre of that, needs to happen for them to kick on to that next level and start going deeper into these competitions?
I think we had a massive chance this last World Cup. Well, there's no shadow of a doubt in my mind. The football that we played against France was fantastic. Even against Denmark was a game we could have won, and we fell short. I feel the last World Cup campaign was the hardest. It was tough because I remember the Syria game. I remember when we travelled to Japan. I remember the Thailand game, and we took the toughest journey possible. And you know, some of the best moments come from that, with that qualifying campaign for myself. And it was really tough. But the one thing we do as Australians is we give everything, and we buy into the project, and we're selfless. And I think now going into the next campaign, I think it's a new era. I think that with staff and also probably new players and younger, fresher, it's going to be exciting. I know it's going to be exciting because I know the passion that Arnie has. I've worked with him the very start of my career, the Olympics, and I know also the A-League, what he did there, and as a manager, what his philosophy is and what he wants to do. And it's going to be exciting. but I think we also need time to just be patient. You know, let's see how the training camps go. Let's see how the Asian Cups goes, and not put too much pressure on the country, because being part of 4 massive tournaments and World Cups, it's the toughest thing for any country. You know, the last World Cup, Holland wasn't there, Italy wasn't there, Australia was there. And you also have to put in perspective how big that is for our country, and the moments that we had with everyone here watching and what it did for us and kids and the growth of the game. So I think we just got to be patient. We're in an era now that, a stage now that new regime and new setups coming in, and to try and help it, you know, to grow. To how we're going to qualify for the World Cup and all that sort of stuff is... I'll pass that over to the big man.
Yeah, Tim, you mentioned about your family and the impact, you know, when you left home as a teenager, and also the stresses of being in a World Cup. What sacrifices have your family made for you, and how much of an impact did that make on your decision?
Listen, the only time I get hurt is when my family get hurt, and I think... when I talk about my family, without them, I couldn't be sitting here today or bring some of the best moments throughout my career for Australia. And that's the thing that motivates me. So you talk about playing for Australia. I play for Australia. I play for my family. Nothing hurts. 120 minutes against Syria is an absolute pleasure. There's no more pain than living away from your family or leaving them early, or watching, you know, the stresses that, you know, your brothers or your sister or that your mum and dad go through. It's just a game, but it's a game where I've been lucky enough to give them a reward. So people say, like, you know, 38, why are you still playing? What are you doing? It's a pleasure. The pressures of going out and being the man that has to score and do those sorts of things, that's not pressure. Pressure's when your family have to, you know, your mum has to work 2 jobs, make sure they pay the bills when you're growing up. That's pressure. You know, people talk about all that sort of stuff, and I think that's where that beautiful scar's been with me my whole life. You know, I'm a motivated person, and I put so much into, still now, look, Chris was laughing because I've been away to the Maldives, and he said to me, you be careful because I ordered a ham and cheese croissant. And I said to him, I weighed myself this morning, I was 75.2 kilos. My family mean everything to me because I've made so many not selfish decisions, but in a way that every decision that I've made for my career, I've had to make certain, you know, commitments. I left the Premier League to continue playing for my national team at 32, or I couldn't see out my contract in the Premier League. It was too much, 50 games a season, whatever it was. And I went to the MLS. MLS was amazing, and then I made the move to China at 35, and everyone was saying, oh, all these lucrative deals. It also helped my body. It allowed me to still score goals, to try a different continent, to, you know, secure my family's future, and also to continue playing for the national team. And then coming home from the A-League was probably one of the biggest moves, because it was when the TV deal was coming. A lot of pressure to do well at Melbourne City. I took a little bit of pressure off with the first game when I scored against Victory, and I didn't realise what it will do for me personally with the fans, and, you know, obviously with the rivalry, the effect that it had with having to pick a club, being a Sydney boy, till you come home and you go to stadiums and you're like, wow, you know, the fans are there, they're passionate, and it wasn't an easy thing to take, you know, when the fans that cheer you for Australia then are on the other side of the fence. But I totally get it. That's the game. But I think just all those decisions, you know, that I've made for the national team, it's all been worth it, because, you know, they're all still there. I don't have a massive group of friends. I have, you know, my brothers, a few close friends that are here, and my cousins. And it's been that same group from the start, and it'll never change. And I'm lucky for Chris and Jake that have been there for day one as well as part of my family that have, you know, helped, brought some good clarity in my life and make the right decisions now to you know, it's not always, football's not the first thing. It's about being a good human being, and you know, I think they've really helped me in that sense. No more questions about family, please.
This one, then you.
I was going to ask you a question about your family. I won't do that.
No, it's all right. It's good now.
I just, and if you don't want to answer it, it's fine.
No,
I
it's
appreciate it. Tim, I just wondered what you said to your kids when you made this decision. How did you tell them, and what was their reaction?
We're sitting in the Maldives at a Miller, and I wanted to. It's funny because you think of things that you're going to post and how you're going to do it, and same again. And during the day, I was asking them, come on, let's go have a photo on the beach, let's go to here. And the kids are going, what for, Dad? And I was like, please, just one photo. And you've got little Cruzy there putting his tongue out and then, like, you know, pinching his brother. And I'm thinking, this is never going to work. So we had a barbecue in our villa, and I sat them all down. And I basically said to them, look, my wife knew. I said to my 15-year-old boy first, I said to him, like, you know, because he was sitting there first, I said, look, I'm retiring from the national team. And then he's quite a mature 15-year-old. He said, look, I respect your decision, Dad. You know, you've done a lot for your country. Then the 13-year-old, Sienna, my 11-year-old and Cruz, they all sat down. And I said, look, Daddy's retiring from the national team. And they went, wait, what? We're not going to Dubai? We're not going to the Asian Cup? And they were shocked because they think Daddy can play forever. They see the way that I train when I'm on holiday. I was playing in all the staff games at Amila and the locals. We had a game that we played every day for an hour and a half. And they took it really well. But they were like, surely you can play in the Asia Cup easy, Dad. And I was like, yeah, maybe I could, but you know, it's time to let the youngsters, you know, pass the baton. Daddy won the Asian Cup with the boys before, and now they're going to do it with a new regime. So, yeah, it was a bit of a shock to them. But I said, look, that means Daddy will be around more, and they're happy. They're happy because that reflection time with them, and I told them the night before, and that's the reason why I posted that picture, because I wanted it to be a happy time, not one of me standing in a Socceroos jersey telling people how many goals I scored and what I've done. And I suppose all of that will happen in the, you know, now after I've hung the boots up.
Carlos Bielli from 2RRR team. Over the years, you have had some amazing coaches that shape you as a footballer. Who had the biggest influence in your career?
Oh, yeah, put me on the spot, man.
Good question.
I think Australian coaching has been something that's been really underrated throughout the international setup career. And when you look at some of the coaches I've worked with internationally, whether it be the start with Gus and then there was Holger, look, some of them have world-class attributes, but I think now when you see what Ange brought out in us, not just coaching, the motivational side, the drive. He played a big part in convincing me to stay on, because there come an era when a few of the boys, you know, had to step away, or you know, it wasn't the time for them to continue. And I can go back to Farina, but I feel where he positioned us 4 years ago and the football that he started to implement. It made me feel good. It made me excited. You know, put a lot of pressure on the players in the midfield to pass the ball, go away to Japan and make 400 to 600 passes. And I feel now transitioning into Arnie's era, now with his philosophy, I feel that he'll be able to reward the passing with the finishing and creating goals. And knowing the players and knowing the Australian setup. So I've worked with a lot of great managers, but it also comes teammates, players. So I'm a massive fan of Australian product managers because I feel the only way we can get better is by having someone that feels the badge, understands it. It's very difficult to be in any tournament or anywhere when being Australian, playing for Australian or coaching as an Australian, you can see that in the eyes. You know when the team talk's going that it's going to hurt them when something goes wrong, or it's going to feel great. So I feel that's going to have a big element on the setup. But to all the managers that I've worked with, they all played their part. Of course, Frank Farina, Holger, Arnie and Ange, but you know, big thank you especially to Ange for motivating me. He said to me before the last World Cup in Brazil, why can't this be your best ever World Cup? And I've said it before. I was like, all right, we'll see. And then, you know, he didn't always play me. You know, I was always used in the back end of my career when they needed to use me, you know, and when it was appropriate. But that's the reason why you've always got to be ready, because you get your best moments from that.
Tim, Rob Forsyth from AAP. Just reflecting on your international career, can you touch on the role Mike Cockerell played in getting it started and getting the green light? And do you ever wonder what if that, you know, those rules hadn't changed?
I think, look, it's definitely a time. I think Ange paid a massive tribute to Mike Cockerell in the Asian Cup. We played a video about his role and the type of guy he was for the game, and the impact that he made. But I think also, you know, you can even talk about Les Murray. You can talk about some of the greats, Johnny Warren. You can talk about so many. And I find it hard to talk about just one individual because there's so many that have played such a massive part and made an impact. But Mike Cockerell was someone I knew personally, someone that I reached out to numerous amounts of times, and I've done interviews with him. And I think the game, you know, people like that make the game better. And I think a lot of us can learn a lot from these sort of gentlemen that have played their part. And to structure the game also needs, like I said before, harmony. It needs people. When you're educating them, you know, try and respect the game at the same time, because you look in England, you look at the biggest leagues in the world, they're constantly protecting their game. They're constantly trying to help it. They're constantly trying to grow it because it's the biggest game in the world. And you've seen that from what a World Cup does to all these nations.
And ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much concludes the press conference. Before I go, I just want to leave you with a couple of antidotes for you. The first one comes from an ex-great player, but I did promise him I would keep his name anonymous. He was in Russia, who I spoke to in the last couple of days in Moscow, does a lot of work for FIFA now. And he had two questions for me. The first one was, you know, why didn't you bring on Tim Cahill in that last 15 minutes against Denmark? I said, I don't know. I said, don't ask me. I said, you can go and ask the manager. The second one, that's off the back of what Carly asked, actually. The second one was, he said to me, how are you going to replace him? And I just told him straight, I said, champion, you don't replace people like Tim Cahill. And I think that's an important thing. You find another player and so forth, but people like the gentleman here on my left are irreplaceable. And the last one, Sir Alex Ferguson, who was manager of mine for over 7 years of my career, only ever asked me about two Australian players. There was one he asked me about who I knew very well, so I could speak about his character. And the second man he asked me about was Tim. And, you know, you talk about regrets in your life and so forth, and I didn't really know Tim then, so I couldn't really answer him. But I've had that opportunity again after today. I just would have summed it up in one word, and that is a champion. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Tim Cahill, thank you very much. Round of applause, everyone, please.
Just thank you to the media, but also to Ben O'Neill, Dino Mazzanetta, Samantha. Thanks so much for setting all this up here at the Star. It means a lot because without these guys, we wouldn't be sitting here. And Bozza, you're a gentleman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Australia.